Hello, this is Tiger/2. I was going to make another unit analysis video, but I don't think it's appropriate to even attempt an in-depth analysis of any unit related to the Eldar family tree without addressing the elephant in the room. Chapter Approved just recently hit shelves, although the pertinent information was posted online weeks beforehand. Much to the dismay of the players of the Index armies, the update included only a handful of points updates for many armies, with Harlequins, Dark Eldar, and Tau receiving very few in specific. This is in spite of the fact that Index armies are considered to be some of the worst in the game. There are many ways Chapter Approved mismanaged its own internal balance, and it would be impossible to list them all here, but there are a few blatant highlights that should probably be in everyone's mind going forward as the game has more releases. Imperial Guard conscripts received yet another blow to the kneecaps, this in spite of being nerfed substantially in the Codex already. Malefic Lords doubled in value, which to the outside observer might not sound too bad considering they were spammed endlessly at tournaments and were clearly out of their intended power level. However, Primaris Psychers went up only 6 points, and the Spirit Seers were never amended from their current 45-point level in neither the Craftworld's FAQ nor Chapter Approved, meaning both Eldar and Imperial armies have access to the same smite spam units that Chaos did, if not better. This is reminiscent of the Razorwing Flock points increase, as that also doubled in points value due to its ubiquity in tournament play. Other disappointing changes were the rampant points increases to nearly all Forge World models. These points increases, like the changes to the Malefic Lord and Razorwing Flock, were so profound they come off as almost vindictive. This has been argued as simply balancing around the new Apocalypse rules included in the book, but that does not explain the significant points hikes for the more low point value Forge World units, such as the Eldar Shadow Spectre. There are other things I could go into as well, such as the disappointment of the Design Your Own Land Raider feature, which almost entirely excludes Chaos from the fun, or the very lean terrain rules, all of which were promised to us in 8th edition. But these touch on a broader point I want to discuss. Games Workshop, and Chapter Approved in particular, have been touchy subjects to many hobbyists, at least in my gaming circles. When I posted the Dark Eldar points changes from Chapter Approved to Dark City, I was met with all 5 stages of grief, including the appropriate wailing and gnashing of teeth. This response was echoed across many Facebook groups and my gaming friends. Games Workshop apologists then jumped on any negative statements, saying, "This is just to tide you over until the Codex is released," or "It's because Forge World did such a bad job with their index," or "Hey, it's better than nothing." And while Mighty No. 9 reference might be a bridge too far with Chapter Approved, much like the infamous video game, Chapter Approved suffered under the weight of its developers' own hype. Chapter Approved was expected to essentially be Warhammer 40k 8.1 edition, with new rules, new gameplay options, new missions, and a whole list of printed errata and points adjustments for every army. Nothing Games Workshop posted in their social media or teased us with in advertisements did anything to dispel this expectation, and in fact only bolstered it. When the book finally released, what we got were conspicuous omissions, knee-jerk reactionary points increases, outright confusing internal balance conflicts, very light terrain updates, and mission options for narrative play that frankly no one wanted or cares about. And if all this wasn't enough, the book is essentially paid errata. That is, the points adjustments are not available for free. You must buy the book in order to have the current updated rules. Chapter Approved is demonstrable evidence that people driving this bus clearly have no idea where it's headed. Not since the release of Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition has a collection of so many rules been brought together to let so many people down. Frontline Gaming, Games Workshop's hand-picked playtesters, have of course nothing negative to say about the release, which is concerning in and of itself, because either they have no idea how to balance the game either, or they're simply on the take. Either one could pretty easily explain Chapter Approved, but expecting consumer advocacy out of them at this point is laughable. For the most part, Games Workshop themselves, their social media, and the community sites seem to be imparting nothing but endless hand-wringing at any attempt to extract useful information, while passing along everything from model requests to blatant rules oversights that have potentially game-breaking ramifications. No matter how many community surveys go out or how many times something is passed up the chain, there's a feeling that something is lost in translation. But let's be practical here for a minute. What can we as hobbyists and as Dark Eldar and Eldar players in specific take away from this release? Well, we can see that Games Workshop still insists that the Dark Eldar are apparently made up of 3 sub-factions that don't play nice with each other, a flagrant difference from every other faction in the game that at least has some internal synergy. They also seem to think that the Succubus shouldn't be able to benefit from her own Warlord trait. Eldar players, I would hope, have held on to their Forge World receipts or else they're going to be painting a lot of very lovely paperweights. And Harlequin players are still the prettiest girl at the prom, as not only were their additions useful, but their base army is all over very good, albeit limited. Frankly, the only thing they really have to complain about is the Death Jester not being reduced in points quite enough. The biggest ray of sunshine, though, is the conspicuous absence of the Inari. This, combined with their recent nerf, a rules change that affected them so negatively that many Inari players are actually shelving their armies due to the sheer heavy-handedness of it, lends credence to the rumors that Games Workshop rules designers are frustrated and regret writing the Inari faction at all. Strength from Death apparently has been something of a balance nightmare for the rules team, and getting it under control has been extremely difficult, especially since the Inari can draw from such a wide range of models. Now, I know a lot of players liked the Inari faction, but as someone who's personally had to deal with the plague of fat, sweaty, bearded men, endlessly shaking dice in their fist while muttering under their breath, "Did I take that unit and it's soul bursted yet?" I view this as a welcome change. And also, I personally think the lore of the entire Gathering Storm saga was written by a 12-year-old. I'm holding out hope that the Dark Eldar Codex in fact makes the army competitive. While I'm not sure that breaking the army into so many smaller chunks is going to lend itself well to many powerhouse builds, the absence of the Inari now means that there's a chance people will bring more than just one Dark Eldar unit in their otherwise entirely Eldar armies, unlike 7th edition. The sad thing is, we will likely have to suffer through this at least another 6 months before we see any real leaks and chapter approved was really all we have to go on in the meantime. To that, all I can say is keep your stick on the ice.